Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2023-24 season. My name is Dan and today we are going to be looking at the super cheap players in FPL. The players who are quite literally as cheap as they physically can be within their respective positions. Now, I love looking at these players. They're perfect for trying to pick out the best bench options. Hopefully you guys are going to enjoy this as well. If you do drop a like, really helps out the channel. And do subscribe if you are new around here and you are serious about your FPL stuff. Let's have a look at these super cheap options and then we're going to finish off with some honourable mentions at the end. So let's go position by position, starting off in goal. We have got Alphonse Areola. Now, if you guys are doing some research into this guy, make sure you do not Google best Areola moments. Believe me, I learned it the hard way. But regardless, this guy is probably the best 4 million goalkeeper to go for. Of course, 4 million is as cheap as a goalkeeper can go. And if we don't want to spend too much money on our bench, we just want to play one keeper as our starting 11 goalkeeper, we do still maybe want to try and figure out the best 4 million goalkeeper to go for at the same time. And when we're looking through these goalkeepers, what we're really looking for is a goalkeeper who is most likely to take the #1 shirt off their primary goalkeeper. Because right now, we don't have a Ward of Leicester. We do not have a Ben Foster of Watford. There are no 4 million goalkeepers that are their club's main starting goalkeeper. Now, Areola is in a pretty good situation because Fabianski, who is currently the #1 at West Ham, is obviously getting a little bit older. He is 38 years old now, so we might see him being phased out slowly. Now, Areola was a couple of years ago actually considered one of the top goalkeeping talents in the country, so he definitely has that ability about him, and you do think that maybe he can compete with Fabianski for that #1 shirt. Areola did get a couple of starts last season. He did play in cup competitions as well, so it's not like West Ham hate this guy. It's just that he hasn't quite found himself with the chance to start regularly in the Premier League. But if we're looking for the guy most likely to do that of all the 4 million goalkeepers, Areola is your man right now. We will have some other options at the end of the video. Into defense, and this is where we find ourselves with the most options at that 4 million price tag. We're going to start you off with Bell, but let me just tell you guys, never before have I seen at the start of a new FPL game where we actually have 4 million defenders who are regularly starting for their team. You know, actual full-on starting players at 4 million. It's very rare we see that this early in the game. We might see a few more later on with some loans, but right now we have got players from the promoted team, starting off with Bell. Now, Bell is a left back / left wing back / maybe left centre back. He actually played a lot of game time last season in the left centre back position. So just do be aware that if you are picking up Bell thinking, oh, I've got a wing back in my team, there is a good chance he does play kind of more as a centre-back, actually not getting as many chances to get those goal involvements. He did get 1 goal and 1 assist in the Championship last season, which isn't too bad. 17 clean sheets looks pretty good, but that is, of course, in the Championship. And from the promoted teams, Luton do look like they are going to be the weakest defences of the 3 teams, and probably going to be the weakest defence in the Premier League. So, although I like the idea of Bell, the fact that he'll probably be playing slightly more deep as a centre-back, and also the fact that we're not really expecting too many clean sheets from Luton, not really too keen on him, but he's definitely one of those options for you. And if you're looking for early fixtures, I guess you have that. I guess we've got Burnley at home here, we've got West Ham at home. There are some decent fixtures here, I guess, but hopefully we won't be looking to play our 4 million defender that often. But there are some other options I do kind of like at 4 million. So Beyer is a 4 million centre-back for Burnley. Now, he is going to be a starting centre-back for Burnley, despite the fact that they are signing a couple of new centre-backs to their squad at the moment. It does seem like Beyer is the one guy who should retain his place in that Burnley back line. Now, Burnley are a lot better for clean sheets. You can see 30 games from Beyer. That is because he kind of arrived at the club kind of quite deep actually into the summer transfer window. So he missed the first games and then he obviously missed a few games from injury as well. But to get 15 clean sheets in 29 starts, that's pretty good. And that kind of shows that Burnley last season were kind of running at a 50% plus clean sheet ratio. They're not going to get that many in the Premier League, but you can still expect them to get a few clean sheets throughout the season. You know, when you look at these fixtures, game week 2 against Luton, you can imagine Burnley can keep a clean sheet against Luton there. Definitely something that is possible. So Beyer, although he is, you know, a 4 million bench player to have. You can legitimately play him in the odd game, and this is going to be one of those odd games that you can play him in. 1 goal and 2 assists as well, which is not too bad. There's a little bit of attacking threat there, certainly a little bit more than Bell, so I guess that in that way, he is a better option. There is one more guy who I think is probably my favourite one, who has not been spoken about quite as much in the 4 million defensive bracket. And that is Bulldog. So Bulldog is a 4 million defender again. He is a right wing back who plays international football for Greece. Didn't really know about that until the last couple of weeks when I've been doing research into these newly promoted teams. But if there's any Greek people out there, how is Bulldog doing for your international team? It's very surprising when you see a very English-sounding name playing for kind of a different country, I guess. But there we go, guys. We have got Bulldog, 4 million. Played 36 games, 3 of which were sub-appearances. He got 1 goal and 3 assists during that time. And from what I've heard from Sheffield United fans, although technically they have got Bogle as well, who plays in the right wing-back slot, it does seem like Bulldog is going to be the main nailed-on right wing-back to go for. So, yeah, still a very, very good, pretty nailed-on option. But we actually, this time, have a wing-back. So it's not going to be a centre-back this time. We have got a through-and-through wing-back. And he's slightly more defensive than Bogle, so I think that's going to favour him in the Premier League football. 1 goal, 3 assists, so more attacking returns than the other 2 guys as well in 36 games. 14 clean sheets. So again, you can see that Sheffield United are capable of keeping clean sheets at the Championship level. Can they kind of do that in the Premier League? Maybe. I don't see why not. And they have some pretty decent fixtures as well here and there. So definitely going to be some opportunities for Bulldog to actually come into your starting 11, despite the fact he is a 4 million defender. Maybe he can come in and cover in the odd game. And because not many people are talking about him, I can see Bulldog maybe getting price rises as well if things go well for Sheffield United. We've seen before what Sheffield United have done in the Premier League and actually kept a lot of clean sheets. And in that situation, the 4 million defenders for Sheffield United were actually ended up being really good. Like 4 million, 4.5 million for a Sheffield United defender ended up becoming really good value for money last time around. So actually, Sheffield United and Bulldog might be worth going for indeed. I kind of like this pick. I think this is probably, for me, the best 4 million defender you can go for, unless you want to take a bit of a risk, and we will get to some honourable mentions in defence because there are some interesting. Now, midfield is very, very difficult this year, more difficult than we have ever seen it before. Usually we'll get 1 or 2 4.5 million midfielders who are just like super defensive midfielders who are going to get regular game time, but probably not many attacking returns, and that's why they're priced at 4.5 million. This season, we currently don't have any nailed on 4.5 million midfielders, but Nakamba is marvellous, and I'll tell you why he's marvellous. It's because, despite the fact he plays for Aston Villa right now, it does look like he is going to be signing for Luton Town. He played for Luton Town in the second half of last season on loan from Aston Villa, and he did really well, really was kind of their best player in that team. So yeah, they will be looking to sign him on a permanent. That should hopefully happen for Luton within the next week or so, and if so, that would make marvellous Nakamba the only nailed on 4.5 million midfielder. So if you're just looking to get the 1 point or 2 point or 3 points each game, just someone to cover you just in case your starting 11 goes terribly, terribly wrong, Nakamba is maybe the way to do that. From Nakamba to Ndombele. So Ndombele was on loan at Napoli last season. Didn't start that many games, but featured regularly from the bench. Of course, this Napoli team actually won Serie A, so a very, very impressive team that he was in, despite the fact he wasn't always starting. But yeah, he played a role in that team, and obviously he is a very talented player indeed. So looking through this, guys, it kind of is a little bit scary, and I know a lot of people are thinking, Ndombele, how is he going to break into the Spurs team? A 4.5 million midfielder? This is just way too risky, but I think there are some interesting points to take away. So, first of all, Ndombele was maybe going to go out on loan, but Ange Postecoglou, the new Spurs manager, is a long-term admirer of Ndombele and has said he wants to keep Ndombele at the club, give him a second chance and see what he can do. Now, we know what he can do at his best. It's just going to be a case of whether he can prove himself in a Spurs shirt, which hasn't really happened so far. But he is, according to the manager, going to get a chance. Now, whether that means playing regularly or getting some minutes off the bench, I don't know for sure. But what I do know is that if Ndombele is playing in this Ange Postecoglou Spurs system as one of the 2 slightly further forward centre midfielders, that could be a real opportunity for him to get some goals, get some assists, and be involved in those attacks. So it really is fully dependent on whether he can get minutes, and after that, if he can produce on those minutes, he is going to get the chance. Will he succeed in his chance? I don't know, but if he does, he could make this 4.5 million price tag look ridiculously silly and ridiculously cheap. So there is definitely, for me personally, I think there's definitely potential here. But remember, guys, there's not too much going on in the 4.5 million midfield slots at the moment. So I am kind of clutching at straws a little bit just to try and find something for you guys. Just to, you know, just to find something, because I know a lot of you guys are going to be looking for a 4.5 million midfielder. But I should say the fact that there aren't really many 4.5 million midfielders does kind of suggest to me that maybe a 5-man midfield is probably the way to go and not have a 4.5 million midfielder at all. So something to think about. But if that's the case, that means we're going to be playing with one or two forwards, right? So we're going to have some 4.5 million forwards. Let's see what we've got. Cameron Archer. Now, this is a player, really successful loan spell in the Championship at Middlesbrough second half of last season, where he started 17 games and got 11 goals and 6 assists. So he is clearly ready to step up to Premier League football. Now, the question is, can he get ahead of Ollie Watkins? And the answer to that is probably not. Probably not. But it doesn't look like Aston Villa are signing another forward. So maybe Archer is going to get regular minutes from the bench and maybe can prove himself and maybe prove that he is worthy of a starting 11 spot. He is clearly a very talented player. He did very well for England at the Under-21 World Cup. He scored 2 goals and got 1 assist in, I believe, 5 appearances in that tournament. So that's not too bad at all, really. So overall, I just feel like he is a guy who has potential, has talent. There's also a chance he gets loaned out. And if he does, he is ready for a loan to a Premier League club. If that happens, then that's going to take him from a okay option at 4.5 million to a wow, okay, this is pretty good. So yeah, if you are liking the look of this one, I would not blame you at all. Cameron Archer is looking like a real prospect at 4.5 million. Now, Antoine Semedo is my other option that I feel like I kind of like for 4.5 million. Again, there's not a tremendous amount of options in the 4.5 million forward slots, but he did play 11 games last season, 9 of those off the bench. He did score a goal for Bournemouth as well. He only played for Bournemouth in the second half of last season, obviously signed in the January transfer window from Bristol, and he was doing really well for Bristol as well. So that was really impressive from him. He was kind of their star player, and Bournemouth decided, hey, let's spend 10 million and get this guy. So he's clearly not a player who has just been bought in for no reason. He clearly has some kind of part to play for this Bournemouth system if he can prove himself and start getting himself more regular minutes. But again, we're looking for players where there is potential, and Semenyo still very young. He's definitely going to get some minutes. We don't know how many. Can he break into the first 11 on a more permanent basis? It's more difficult to say, but again, there is potential there. The fixtures aren't amazing for Bournemouth, but hopefully if you're going for a 4.5 million forward, you're probably just going to sit them on your bench the entire time anyway. But if you're looking to fill a spot, he's pretty low ownership as well, so he's not very likely to drop down in price or anything like that. Semenyo is probably the guy for you. Okay, here's some honourable mentions, ones to keep an eye on. So we've got some goalkeepers. Again, we are clutching at straws with goalkeepers a little bit. Strakosha is a talented goalkeeper. He was, you know, a few years ago considered a really top goalkeeper. Was the regular starting goalkeeper for Lazio for years, actually. Did move to Brentford, but hasn't really found his feet there. So not really sure how that's going to play out. Was injured a lot of last season. Is there a chance that he may start ahead of Flecken, assuming Raya leaves the club? I guess maybe, but, you know, again, we're not really 100% sure. Peacock Farrell got a few games for Burnley at the end of last season, but it looks like Burnley are looking to sign a new goalkeeper. Kelleher plays for Liverpool right now, but could potentially get a Premier League loan. If he does, that could be interesting. Sarkic was actually at Stoke last season, but he plays for Wolves, and there's a chance that Jose Sarr might make way occasionally. We have seen Jose Sarr get dropped before for Wolves, so maybe Sarkic is going to be kind of second fiddle in that regard. Not sure about that one. 4 million defenders. Lamptey is super popular right now, but unless he moves clubs, I don't know if I like him as an option. I can't see him playing too many minutes, but we know he is a very talented player, so at 4 million, maybe you can't go too wrong here. We've got Ekdal at Burnley, maybe a chance that he doesn't get so many minutes this season just because of so many new signings for Burnley in the centre-back position, but maybe Burnley fans can tell me a little bit more about this. Gusto, now this is a really, really interesting one because he plays at right-back, and he's basically going to be the backup right-back for Reece James at Chelsea. Now, if Reece James gets injured, and let's face it, that happens pretty often, Gusto is suddenly going to be a regular starting 4 million defender. So it's up to you. If you want to go for Gusto in game week 1, and I guess hope James gets injured, I know that doesn't sound like a very nice thing to do, but look, if that was to happen, Gusto would become a very good FPL option. Then I guess you could go that way and just stick Gusto on your bench for now and see what happens, see if he gets any game time. We've got Jared Branthwaite, who had a really successful loan spell at PSV last season, will be coming back to Everton, and possibly even in their starting lineup. There is real calls for Branthwaite to start starting games every game week for Everton. We know that their centre-backs have not been the best. They've lost Mina, they've lost Cody, maybe another one or two might be going out on loan. So Branthwaite, this could be his breakout season in the Premier League. Definitely one to keep an eye on, in my opinion. I'd prefer to go for an Everton defender with, playing under Sean Dyche, more Premier League experience, but perhaps better goalkeeper behind them. I'd perhaps rather go for an Everton defender than a Luton or a Burnley or a Sheffield United. So that is definitely one to keep an eye on. Let's see what happens in pre-season. We've got Anderson, who played for Luton last year, but not 100% sure whether he's going to be the best option to go for. But I guess he started regularly last year, so that's something. We've got Norrington Davies, who's not really been spoken about by many people because he was injured sort of the second half of last season. But before that, he was a real regular starting player for Sheffield United. He was their starting kind of left centre-back or left wing-back. He played in both of those positions. He was the main guy for them on the left side of their defence. So when he is back, fit and available, and he should be by the start of the new season, he could be once again the main starting left-sided defender for Sheffield United. So, hey, that's actually a pretty good shout that not many people are talking about. So maybe think about that one. Let's see again what happens in pre-season. Into midfield, we've got Andre. Apparently, this guy is absolutely amazing. I don't know too much about him other than he's coming in from the Brazilian league. Chelsea have kind of signed him a little bit under the radar, but he is like the next kind of Busquets, apparently. He is apparently like a really, really insane young CDM, and maybe considering that there has been a couple of sales in the midfield position from Chelsea, there is going to be opportunity for Andre to kind of play alongside Enzo Fernandez in kind of the centre mid positions. Same with Chukwuemeka, who's obviously signed for Chelsea not so long ago. Again, there's no Mason Mount there now. There's no Jorginho there now. You know, there's been spots opened up to play new centre mids at Chelsea, new young guys, new talented guys, and both Andre and Chukwuemeka fill this kind of niche. So maybe for 4.5 million, you get yourself a Chelsea midfielder there who actually probably will end up getting some game time. It's just a case of whether they can properly break through and confirm themselves as a regular starter. And I don't know if we're quite there yet. McAtee is kind of an interesting one. Remember, guys, this is not the Luton Town McAtee. This is the Man City one, who was on loan at Sheffield United last season, where he did really well, scoring goals, getting assists, and he's only 4.5 million. Now, if he returns to Sheffield United, he is the 4.5 million midfielder to go for. You absolutely must go for him because he's an very attacking midfielder, and he would be pretty nailed on in that Sheffield United team. Now, unfortunately, that doesn't look very likely, but I'm sure Sheffield United will be looking to get that loan deal done if at all possible. I just don't think it's very likely, but it's possible. We've got Scarpa here as well. He is a Nottingham Forest midfielder, kind of attacking midfielder, who is actually capped for Brazil, guys. Would you believe it? They signed him in January for, I believe, around £10 million. So, again, quite a decent amount of money spent on this guy, 29-year-old kind of attacker. And he hasn't really seen himself getting much game time. But you like to think that for them to spend this money on a player, surely they're going to want to play him. So maybe that's going to happen. I don't know. Maybe not. It's kind of hard to keep track of all of these Nottingham Forest players and who is going to be a regular starter and who isn't, and who's just been brought in for seemingly no reason. Maybe Scarpa is going to be that guy, but yeah, definitely someone to keep an eye on at the very least. And we've got Boubacar Traore here as well, not to be confused with Adama Traore, who is also at Wolves, but this Traore was a player who got injured last season, but he was starting, you know, fairly regularly at one point, and looked actually quite impressive for them. So you could get a new regular starting 4.5 million midfielder for Wolves this way. The only difficulty is that maybe there are some other options you can play in a midfield for Wolves instead. But having said that, Moutinho is gone, Neves is gone, maybe some slots have opened up, and Traore could get more opportunity to get some minutes on the pitch and just tick along nicely as a kind of a 2 million defensive midfielder, or two-pointer defensive midfielder, who's only 4.5, you know, very, very cheap. We've got forwards here as well. So Balogun, I think we all know by now, if Balogun gets a move to another Premier League club, he pretty much becomes essential. Whilst he plays for Arsenal, I probably would not go for him because, one, he takes up a valuable Arsenal slot, and two, can't really see him getting very much game time for Arsenal. He's not really the kind of striker that we're looking to play at the moment, but still definitely a player with huge amounts of potential, huge amounts of talent, just maybe not fully fitting the play style, particularly with the forwards we already have in the club. So if Balogun gets a move to a Premier League club, he is going to be insane value for money and pretty much a must-have player. Might even be a boring situation at that point, but right now he is at Arsenal, so monitor this one, but don't buy him yet. You don't want to use up a valuable Arsenal slot on a player who's not going to play very regularly. And we have got Surridge here as well, who I thought we'd give a quick shout out to. Everyone's going for Surridge at the moment. He's super high owned, actually. A lot of people bringing him in for their bench. Of course, he did get the most FPL points of any player in the 4.5 million forward bracket last season. However, he hasn't started a game since game week 1 of last season, and it does seem like players like, I don't know, Semenyo actually started more games, but because Semenyo came in second half of the season, didn't score quite as many FPL points. So I actually think Semenyo is more likely to get minutes than Surridge. Of course, Surridge also has the situation that he's now competing with so many other players at Nottingham Forest that he's just not likely to get very many minutes at all. So don't expect anything from him. And one more note on players like Surridge, who are so popular, so heavily owned. Something that we do definitely need to be aware of is that at a certain point, people are going to be selling their 4.5 million forwards. They are going to be selling them in order to upgrade them to another forward. You know, if a good forward emerges, people want to change formation, they will start selling those 4.5 million players. And if you are in a situation where you've picked a 4.5 million forward who loads of other people have, really high owned, that means loads of people are all going to be selling that player at the same time. And if everyone is selling the same player, a huge amount of people are selling one player, they are going to drop down in price. We'll probably see Surridge at 4.4 million within a few weeks of FPL, and you are going to be losing your team value, which is not going to be something that you really want. You don't want to, have a lower team value by game week 2 or 3. It's not ideal. You don't want to see 99.9 million budget. It's not nice, is it? So, yeah, something to be aware of with players like Surridge, players like Bell as well, who is, again, another super high-owned player. Maybe even with Areola as well, if people make goalkeeper transfers, but that's, I guess, slightly less likely. So, those are various options at their cheapest possible price. I'm sure you guys have some of your own. These are all the ones I could think of. I did quite a bit of research, but I know there's going to be a lot of fans of various Premier League clubs out there who will have some key information. So let me know in the comments whether it's one of these players or someone I haven't mentioned, which of these cheap options you like the most, and tell me why as well. I think we'd all like to get a little bit more insight on these cheap players and who we can expect to actually do a pretty decent job on our bench and maybe even come into our starting 11 from time to time. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, please do drop a like. Do subscribe if you are new around here, especially as we've got to do the midfielders tier list videos. You guys smashed the like target on the last tier list video, so we are going to do the midfielder tier list video next, so stay tuned for that one. Make sure you do go check out Fantasy Football Hub as well. I've left a link in the description of where I actually got all of the stats and the numbers for this video. I put that in the description if you want to go check out and have a look at some of the stats, some of the numbers, points per game, expected assists, expected goals, all of that kind of stuff. You can find that all in the same tool, so go check that out. But aside from that, guys, thank you so much for watching once again, and I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.